Alright, we're going to cover the 5 worst episodes of Season 2 of the anthology show Monsters, which we already did a separate video covering every single episode and reviewing all of them. And by we, I mean me, and giving them a score. And so we're going to go over the 5 worst of the 24 episodes that were released in Season 2. And I get to be actually negative. Usually I'm pretty positive. Usually I'm pretty happy. I like this series a lot. I think people should watch these series. But some of these episodes drive me crazy, so I get to channel my inner AVGN, flip the proverbial middle finger, and say which episodes I don't like. Now, I'm going to do 5, because 10 would be covering almost half the episodes, but there are 5 that I think are quite bad. And all these got below a 3. There was another one that got a 3 too, Mr. Schwalber. But Mr. Schwalber would be number 6. So, it gets a pass for right now. It's a kids episode. If you like something like Goosebumps or Are You Afraid of the Dark, which I like too, but I don't think it really fits the monsters motif, super laughable. It's this guy, Mr. Schwalber.
I'm a schlabber.
But he's number 6, so he's not going to be on this episode. Honorable mention. So we're going to go from 1 to 5. Every other series goes from 5 to 1, because they want people to watch the end of the video to see the worst episode. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give you what you want. The worst episode of Monsters Season 2, which is Habitat. It's the worst episode for actually only one reason. It's a pretty basic story. It's one person monologuing the entire time, which is a little annoying. It does very cheap Predator effects that maybe were cool in the 80s. They aren't as cool now. But she's stuck in this alien spaceship, and they're doing tests on her. And if she survives these tests, she gets money. But the sound effects drive me crazy. During my review, I played the sound effects a little bit. I'm going to play it again, and I lowered the volume a lot so it's not so awful, but every time these aliens talk to this girl Jamie, who's played by Lily Taylor, they don't really talk in a muffled tone until the end. They actually just screech at her. They make these annoying sounds to drive her nuts. The first time I saw this episode, actually every time I saw this episode, it drove me nuts too. I hated the sound effects that they use, and they use it constantly throughout the entire episode, blaring these sirens to drive her crazy and also the viewer crazy. This is a huge mistake. I really dislike Habitat. Some people do like it because they think it's an interesting study on human behavior, and there's an animal rights theme at the end, but I absolutely hate it. Here's some amazing sound effects for you. Thank me later.
9 days feel like 63. You bastards! Not the same. I hear you. My name is Jamie Neal. I am 23. Damn it, how long? No, I don't trust you.
The second worst episode of Season 2 is The Gift, which features a quite famous actor, Abe Vigoda, as a criminal, because he always plays a criminal, that have kidnapped this little kid and locked him in the basement, and they're holding him for ransom, trying to get money from his rich parents, so that they will eventually let the kid go.
Abby and I, we're just trying to equal things out a bit. If your father meets our demands, then he'll get his son back. It's called distribution of wealth.
It's called kidnapping.
Hey, Dolan. Ain't no blankets.
There's some in the cellar.
That's a decent crime story. You can go a lot of places with this. However, they throw in a goofy monster. Now, in the anthology show, Monsters, every episode has to feature, guess what, a monster. And so this one features one as well, but it looks really, really goofy. It's like a Chewbacca ripoff gorilla costume, except for his mouth doesn't move. He talks to this kid in the basement through telekinesis, and his voice sounds wimpy and lame.
Friend?
I hardly knew him, but I believe he was a good man. You see, with my power comes a duty, a solemn obligation to care for humankind, preserving the good, destroying the evil.
And what do you get for the hassle? I mean...
Jeff, when I was given the power, I knew my life would be hard, but each of us must decide his path. Some give to the world, others only take from it.
He's actually kind of a good monster, so he's not scary, he's not fun to watch, he's not engaging, he's also not goofy enough, like something like I mentioned earlier, Mr. Schwalber, or something like Glim Glam in this series, which is kind of goofy to look at, but you can tell he's like a friendly monster. He's kind of in between. He's basically nothing and just annoying to watch. There's no scary parts to this episode. The crime parts are probably the most engaging, where they're talking to the parents and trying to get them to dump this cash outside of this steakhouse that they're staying in. But the monster itself is just terrible, and he doesn't even do anything cool. He doesn't attack anyone. There's no violence or blood, except for one gunshot where Ava Goda shoots his partner in crime. And it's just a dreary, bland episode that makes me want to fall asleep. The Gift's number 2. Number 3 is Refugee. This one actually shares a lot of similarities with The Gift. It has the same bland atmosphere and forgettable characters. In this case, it takes place in the Soviet Union, where an American spy is trying to help out this Soviet physicist that is attempting to escape the Soviet Union. And they're being tracked by these alien KGB agents. At least this one, they have some powers, kind of menacing, as opposed to the last 2 episodes, The Gift and Habitat, which don't have anything. Their fingers can shoot lasers and can burn you.
But you're not going to take her.
Our master has that privilege. Until now, I've tried dealing with you as one professional with another. But you, sir, are hopelessly corrupt.
No! Leave him alone!
But you get some terrible Russian accents where people talk like this. Oh, what you gonna do, Mr. Bond?
Everyone is strong up to a point. Pain, starvation, cold, isolation, it's all endurable up to a point. But what finally destroys the soul is time.
And really, not that much happens. Like, you think something's gonna happen, you're gonna see a chase scene. But no, they just show up at their door. And the KGB agents announce that they've come to collect this girl's soul, Anna. And for some reason, the spy decides to give his soul to the alien KGB agents to save this girl, despite the fact that he really doesn't have any connection with their outside trying to save her. It makes no sense. It's ridiculous. And it's going to be number 3. But we're getting at least slightly progressively better. At least they have powers. The number 4 worst episode of Season 2 is The Demons. This episode starts awful and horrendous, but then later on gets slightly better, and it kind of has 2 parts to it. The first part is, well, I'll just show it. This is the scary, horrendous demon they have in the episode.
Hello, come, hello, hello, come, hello, manata pungo, manata pungo, una, 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 fool, bracafillar, I say, fool, bracafillar, una, 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 una.
He has a big brain. He dances around like he's on some, speaks in mementos like he's in some elementary school play. It's not funny. His name is Arcturus. And Arcturus is himself a demon and tries to summon another demon to get him some gold that they call Dras. Because everybody wants gold. If I could summon gold, I would do that, would you? But he summons an insurance salesman instead by the name of Arthur. And the character Arthur is actually somewhat enjoyable. He's goofy but lovable, and he constantly talks about insurance. In fact, they end the episode with him having a conversation with the demon about different types of insurance that he does and the demon does in Demon World. And that part is a good ending and kind of funny.
Hey, us insurance men, we gotta stick together. I'm a sales rep myself.
You? So am I. What a coincidence. What's your specialty?
Life. With fire and theft on the side.
Oh, general accident is more my line. My parent firm handles life, but they need to restructure their premium policy. You know, get it more up to date.
Really? Well, my firm just introduced one of the most exciting cost replacement plans to hit the industry in 20 years.
Really? Boy, I'd love to hear about it.
You would?
Sure. My wife won't even let me discuss insurance anymore. So tell me, what's your payment structure?
Well, it's divided into 3 key subsections.
Wow. Look at that quarterly depreciation.
And how about the retirement, pension,
fascinating.
And look at the stock options.
The loopholes.
You see the stock options? 10% of your money.
But because this is a comedy episode, Monsters just doesn't do comedy that well. I'm also covering Tales from the Dark Side. They do comedy even worse. But there has to be some jokes. It can't just be someone flailing their arms around and making goofy noises. It's like they forgot to write jokes for this episode. Just someone jumping up and down and going, booga 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 booga. That's supposed to be funny, and it's not. So I really dislike the demon Arcturus, but the insurance salesman. If the entire episode was him, this would maybe get a 4 or 5, which means this can be the 4th worst episode of Season 2, The Demons. Now we get to the 5th worst episode of Season 2, Episode 11, Half as Old as Time, starring Leif Garrett. You know what? This episode is worth watching just for Leif Garrett himself.
All right, enough.
What do you know? Is there a leaf in your soup? What the f is that? Garrett. My teeth are happy. Wow. Yepper.
Unfortunately, he is in old man makeup for the first half. I think Leif Garrett was obviously much more popular in 1989 than he would be now. So it seemed like they were trying to do this thing where you weren't sure who was under all that old man makeup, and then he takes it off and they go, oh my god, it's Leif Garrett. It's like the Monsters version of The Masked Singer. And you're supposed to throw your arms in the air and start just praising him and start singing I Was Made for Dancing and When I Think of You. Because that's the way it comes off. Just absent the drum roll going, oh, it's Leif Garrett. This one is more sinister than the ones we've seen before, since the dad, Dr. Miner, takes his archaeologist daughter into this cave where he hears that if you drink the water, you get everlasting life, the proverbial fountain of youth. And Dr. Miner will do anything to get the fountain of youth, including killing his daughter. If he has to kill his daughter to be young again, to be 30 years old, he will do it. And we actually do see that scene. It is a little bit shocking because you think until this point, him and his daughter are in this together. But nope, he turns around and just stabs her.
So this is it. I'll never go back to being what I was.
No going back.
What do you think? How old? 30? God, to be 30 again. To be 30 forever. Everything is ahead of me. The thousands of things, the 10,000s of things I've always wanted to do. The books I've wanted to read, the languages I've always wanted to learn languages. And women, all the regrets, all the missed opportunities of a lifetime. I can make everything all right. I can make everything come out all right.
I feel like the Fountain of Youth should make you younger than 30. I mean, maybe go back to being like 18. Actually, you know what? I'm going back to being 14. I'm redoing high school with all the amazing knowledge I have right now. Is that weird? I don't know. So Leif Garrett still looks kind of old. He has this 80s mustache and slick back hair and old man clothes. But when he's in his normal form, it's a lot more watchable. Seeing him as an old man bumbling around and vibrating his hands a million miles per hour, as if that's the way old people move. They just move slower, and there's slight vibrations, but they're not literally shaking their hands in the air. They don't have the energy to do. Why am I explaining this? They don't have the energy to do that. It looks ridiculous, especially in the scene where he stabs his daughter. He's going so slow and vibrating all over the place, she could just run away. And then he's like, oh, now that I'm young again, now that I'm 30, I can learn languages. I could read books. And he's like, oh no, forget that. It's chicks. Yeah, chicks. That's what I want to do. It's like, yeah, you're not reading books or learning languages. Give me a break. Finally, I can learn the lovely language of Swahili. You're not doing that, Leif Garrett, and you know it. I'm on to you. They do start the episode with some rockin' music, though. His daughter, Laura, is an undercover metalhead. Just look at her.
I thought you said that you'd never come back to the desert.
Will you please turn that off, Jake?
This is my place, Dad.
I didn't come here to fight with you. Please.
This episode is missing a monster, though. Some of the reviews that I read say that the monster is man itself, which is a cop-out. The show is called Monsters. It's supposed to have an actual physical monster you can look at, not just go, men are the monster. Dr. Miner himself is a monster. But I guess they're probably him in the makeup is supposed to be the monster of this episode, even though it's just old man makeup. You also see a statue of a snake that's kind of cool to look at, and a Native American man who warns him about the Fountain of Youth. And when a Native American man by the name of Suspando tells you not to drink the Fountain of Youth because you might be trapped in this cave forever and die, you should listen to him, but he didn't listen to him. So this is the 5th worst episode, but it definitely is the best. Like, it's watchable. Would I recommend you watch it? Well, I mean, I guess if you like Leif Garrett. But overall, not necessarily. I don't really recommend that people watch stuff. I think you should watch everything. You should be like me and suffer through it. But these are the 5 worst episodes of season 2. We'll do season 3 next, and then we'll just do an overall top 10. But I'll tell you what, Habitat is going to make that top 10 list, because I hate Habitat. And I think the only way people can defend that episode is if they just have it on a super low volume. So, that was fun. I kind of like doing the negative episodes. I get to be negative. And who doesn't want to be negative sometimes? Thanks a lot. Check out our playlist for all episodes of Monsters, which I covered all 72 episodes. Tales from the Dark Side, I'm halfway through that series. Fear Itself, I covered all 13 episodes. That was a great series. And we're covering Cowboy Bebop right now. And after that, I'm going to do Goosebumps, Twilight Zone, Black Mirror, and Tales from the Crypt. We got a lot planned. Thanks.